Hello everyone, my name is Ford. Today I have a little bit of a different kind of video for you guys. A lot of stuff to report on, so let's just jump right into it. So the past few days, there have been three or so pretty big developments in terms of what's going on in the world. So to start with the first topic, I would like to talk to you about a new development of a potential new virus that's being spread around. Yes, you did hear me correctly. On top of all of the BS that's going on in the year 2020 has brought to us, there is yet another virus going around that could potentially have pandemic qualities. Now, mind you, it's still too early to say for sure, but based on the White House coronavirus advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, I think that's how you say his name, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, has stated that the health officials are keeping an eye on the new strain of flu carried by pigs in China that has characteristics of a 2009 H1N1 virus and the 1911, I mean, 1911, and the 1918 pandemic flu. As if things aren't already hard enough for people right now, we're being greeted with this bullshit. Luckily, however, the virus seems to only affect pigs at the moment, but it could very well mutate and affect humans as well. Now, scientists are calling this virus the G4EA H1N1. Sorry saying that 5 times fast. For now, we're just going to refer to it as the G4. Um, and I believe that's what everyone else is calling it right now. When I first read this news in the morning, I nearly dropped my bowl of cereal. On top of all of the civil unrest that's going on in America, racial injustice, the protests, the rioting, the looting, the pandemic, and everything else, it honestly just feels like the world is ending. I know that it's not, but at least hopefully it isn't. But I can't be the only one who gets doomsday vibes from all of this. Also in the news, though, guys, apparently protests in Hong Kong have gone violent with police officers firing tear gas and rubber bullets. People have been vandalizing Chinese government buildings. Does this sound familiar to anyone else, or is it just me? This sounds exactly like what's going on here in America with the protests and the rioting and the looting and everything else. But over there, the protests, people there barely have any personal freedoms. Everything is heavily censored on the internet to the point where it's basically useless. The government governs them very harshly and monitors the civilians' every moves. It's basically the equivalent of a dystopian society. But now, due to the protests, the Chinese government has been pushing for a new quote unquote national security law to be put in place in Hong Kong, which is probably one of the most important cities in the world. It's massive, if not one of the biggest cities in Asia. It's also a global center for economics, and the United States has close ties with them. Compared to everything else in China, Hong Kong is basically the most free, if that makes any sense. People have a little bit more personal liberties there. They're not being as harshly governed by the government as everywhere else in China. So it's basically a place where a lot of people, everyone knows about Hong Kong. You should probably already know right now. But China is trying to change all of that. If they can get this law passed, it would basically allow them to turn Hong Kong into their own playing field. They could change the laws, they can change how they govern people, they can change how the internet is run there, they can change basically everything. And this could mean a lot of repercussions from a lot of countries that have ties with Hong Kong, such as the United States, and all of that. But honestly, hopefully this does not pass. The reason why that China is trying to get this passed in the first place is because obviously China does not like pro-democratic protests going on. And since there's a lot of them and some of them have gotten violent, they're thinking of passing this law, which would basically nip that right in the bud. This would not be good for pretty much everyone because Hong Kong is, again, is such a massive city and a lot of things actually do happen there. And countries have ties to that city as well. Hopefully that doesn't get passed, but if it does, it will forever change Hong Kong. Next in the news, of course, I will be reporting on the new coronavirus updates, more specifically here in the US. Cases have soared since they've tried to reopen the country. Yeah, no surprise there. I mean, I just don't understand how Trump and everyone else didn't see this coming. Like, if you just go ahead and try and reopen the country as soon as the numbers dip just slightly, I mean, it's not like cases dropped massively before they tried to reopen the country. Like, people were still getting infected. It wasn't like it stopped or like the numbers went way down and we had flattened the curve completely. No, the curve was still pretty much very much there. And Trump was already trying to reopen the country. So we're looking at states like California, Florida, and Texas have been opening up. People have been going around doing their business and coughing on each other because apparently nobody believes in wearing masks anymore, which is retarded, needless to say. But honestly, it's just extremely frustrating with everything that's going on in the world right now. We have a global pandemic. People are losing their jobs. People are about to be homeless because they're not protected. The people are getting evicted because those programs that were put in place to protect them from being evicted during the pandemic, because obviously people lost their jobs or people are just too sick. People might not even lost their jobs, but they're forced not to go to their jobs because they have some kind of they might have like asthma or some other issue or other health issues that makes them very susceptible to the virus. So they have to stay indoors. They can't risk going to their jobs because that would basically be risking their lives. A lot of people do not have money right now here in America, and opening the country isn't helping that. You see in Texas, you see in Florida, which is where I'm in, you see in California and a couple other states that have reopened the country. The cases have soared. I mean, obviously. People are going around mingling with each other, going to jobs. Bars have reopened, restaurants have reopened. You have people walking in and out of Chase, people going to parks and everything like nothing has happened, as if the coronavirus was just some kind of bad dream. Obviously, cases are going to go back up, and the death toll literally is reaching record highs. I think it was like in Texas where they had like 45,000 people. No, that was cases, 45,000 new cases in one day that happened. And of course, the death toll is going up as well. Honestly, as a citizen of America, it's just frustrating to see this going on. You take a look at other countries and what they've been doing for their civilians and the people who are in trouble there due to the virus. I mean, just look at Canada. They've given $2,000 a month stimulus checks to their civilians. Doesn't matter if you lost your job, doesn't matter if you still have a job, doesn't matter where you are, as long as you meet, that if you're making under a set amount of money, you get $2,000 a month every month to kind of help ease the impacts that the coronavirus is having there. Why isn't America doing this? I just don't understand. I'm frustrated with it. We're supposedly the greatest country in the world, but we can't even pass a recurring payment. The only thing that we've gotten is a $1,200 one-time payment. Not $2,000, not $1,500, $1,200 a one-time payment to help. That really didn't really help anyone hardly at all. I mean, money is money, don't get me wrong, everything helps, but in the grand scheme of things, people's rent costs more than that. Rent's costing $2,000, $1,900, $1,500. I mean, even if the rent can be covered by that amount of money, that's where the whole check is going to. It's just going to rent. People still have to pay for food, they have to pay for groceries. I mean, the same thing, but they also have to pay for gas and all these other expenses, light, water, electricity. I mean, need I go on? There really needs to be more of a push for uh, more stimulus to be passed, which leads me very, very comfortably into my last topic for today, which is the update on the second stimulus check or second stimulus package. Now, based on what I've seen, I've read a few of the reports and the action. I have been very closely following what's been happening the past few months. If you're not in the loop, after the first CARES Act was passed and they did the whole $1,200 stimulus check thing, now they're thinking about passing a second stimulus check. Well, no duh. Everyone needs it. People need money right now. And I guess what some of the Republicans are basically worried about is the fact that if we give people free money, it's going to discourage them from going back to work. Or they're basically worried that, oh, the debt that they'll have to pay if they start giving recurring payments to all the people, to the American people, that it's going to put a huge dent into the Americans' overall debt. If that makes any sense. I'm sorry, I didn't word that the best, but basically, yeah. So that's pretty much what they're worried about. But if you think about it, if you give people $2,000 a month every month, just until the pandemic ends, let's say for the next 4 to 6 months, okay, like people have been trying to fight for the next year or so, but I highly doubt that'll happen. I don't even think they'll do recurring payments, honestly, the way that it's been looking. But let's say you start giving people $2,000 a month, recurring every month, right? That money isn't just like being sent to the people, because the people is going to take that money and they're going to go out and they're going to go buy groceries. They're going to go out and they're going to start eating at restaurants. They're going to go out and they're going to buy a couple of other things. They're going to pay their bills. That money is going to go straight back into the economy, which is going to fuel the economy to make a comeback, because we all know the economy is basically shit now. I mean, sure, Wall Street is doing great, but I mean, that's Wall Street. They're always doing great. I mean, Dow Jones is, from last time I checked, was doing fantastic. But I mean, that doesn't reflect how the economy basically is. But anyway, in terms of the next stimulus package, what the Republicans have been talking about and tossing forth ideas back and forth is that it looks like everything is sort of pointing to the fact that they will do another one-time stimulus package or stimulus check like the first one, which is good. I mean, any sort of money from the government, free money to people, is great. Of course, we would rather have recurring payments, but at this point, it really doesn't seem like we'll be getting that. But all of this really comes down to is those July 2nd, this Friday, depending on when you're seeing this video, it might have already passed or not, but July 2nd, that is when the US jobs report come out, and that is when all of the Republicans are going to be basing their decision around. So last month's jobs report, if you weren't already in the loop, showed some false numbers. It showed that we had gone up compared from the previous month in April. Yeah, in April, because that was the May jobs report. So the previous month in April showed that we had gone up and more people got their jobs, but that number was absolutely false. It was just people returning to their jobs, but not like people actually like it didn't correctly display how many people were actually unemployed. The number was later fixed, but the reason why they weren't really like looking at another stimulus check earlier, like way earlier back in May, or back in June, early June, I should say, was because they saw this jobs reporting like, oh yeah, the economy is great, people are getting back to work, people are getting their jobs, when that was just a false number. And they should have known that, because as they sent that number out, it was only like a couple hours later when they had said that these numbers were false and that there was an error and how they calculated it. They later fixed it, but that's pretty much why we're having this delay. So on July 2nd, once that jobs report comes out, the Republicans and the Democrats and whatever in the Senate are going to look at this information and they're going to talk about it, dispute what should be in the HEROES Act that was passed by the House of Representatives left roughly 45 days ago, and that's basically going to determine what's going to be in the next stimulus package. What's also pretty much guaranteed to be in the next package is just normal, like other how do I say, policies to give more money back to people. Like they might do an incentive to get people back to work, which is really good. Like maybe like 400 extra dollars to people's checks, something along those lines. They're looking to see to do that. Again, it's not guaranteed, but it's highly likely that they'll do that, seeing that the job support, and hopefully the number does come out correctly this time, because honestly it should show that a lot more people have lost their jobs, especially in June, because people are still being impacted by the coronavirus. But that's basically what's going to be determining the second stimulus check and whether or not we get one, and whether or not it's recurring payments. Doesn't look too likely for it to be that, but you never know. So stay tuned for July 2nd. That's basically when they're going to be making their big decisions. And of course, they're going to be coming back from their recess. I think they might have already come back from their not retirement, God, from their vacations. They took a vacation, I think, in August sometime, while the whole country is on fire, civil unrest and racial issues and all this stuff. The pandemic is going on. They're out on vacation. These millionaires sitting in the Senate, paid to just bicker around all day, are out there on vacation. And they come back briefly until like July 4th, I think, or July 3rd, and then they go back on vacation until the 17th. Damn, it really must be nice for them. But yeah, hopefully they do get this second stimulus package passed. But yeah, that's my report on the news. It's a little bit of a different video if you're used to the kind of content that I make here on this channel, but I just wanted to try my hand out on this. If you like today's video, be sure to leave a like. Let me know your thoughts down below on what's going on. I'll be reading and responding to every single one of you. And thanks. Have a great day.